previous videos, I've shown you how to create a layout, something like this, where you have your buttons underneath your banner. But now what happens if you need to put the buttons actually on the banner, or as part of your design you were thinking about doing it? Well, what we need to do now is change the design a little bit. Now you can see everything that I've done here is within my body, and I've got one div, and everything then is within this one div. Now it might be the case that you don't have this div and everything's outside. It's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this image here that we've got, and we're actually going to be removing it. But before I do that, what we're going to do is we're going to click on insert. We're going to change this to bootstrap, and we are then going to look for a new component. Now you can see there's one called carousel. Now when I click on carousel, I'm just going to place this after, so it'll come in after here, because I just want to show you the comparison. So this carousel essentially does allow you to actually have 3 different banners if we need to, right? Or even have 3 different types of images. And what we'll end up doing is we'll be placing the buttons within these placeholders here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete this. So we're going to get rid of it now. So I'm going to just click on it, and then you can either right click and delete, or you can just press the delete button. So we've got that there. Now you can see I've got the word carousel there. That's actually an image in the back. And if we look at how this is laid out, you have an outer item here. So this is all in a div. And you've also got then what's called div inner, and you've also got then the indicators, so these things here. And you've also got then, if we go to the outside again, you've got then the other side of the container. Now we do have these, hang on, previous and next, there they are. So these are the next and the previous, which we don't necessarily need with this. Now, one thing that we are going to need to do is, if I click on the divs here and we start going through, you'll see that there's a few items that we can change. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to click on this background here, and we are going to basically change the source file. So as you can see, I've got it on my Mac here at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my banner that I've already made, which is here, and I'm going to just do this quickly. So if I click on point to file, drag it up to this, I think it's this one here, there you are. So you can see now the banner has basically now been put in as a background. What I would then do is, whilst you're still on the banner, click on the 3 dots here and then click on make responsive, so that then will put it to the full width. Now what you'll notice is that then will reorganize your designs for you. Now you can get rid of these other things so you don't actually need them. So let me show you what they actually do. If we go back to the design, in fact I might have to do it in the preview. So if we preview this in, let's say, Safari, okay, so what this does is when I click the next, look, it keeps on going to the next item. So what we could potentially do is, if you wanted to, you could have 3 different images if you wish. Okay, now obviously I don't wish to have 3 different images, so what we are going to do is we're just going to remove these, and we're also going to take some code out as well. So what we can do on this is the previous and next, these are anchors, so if we get rid of them, that's the first part of it. And also if we then go into the code, so if I click on split, you can see there I got carousel item, first item, second item. So what we need to do is get rid of this. Now one thing you'll notice is when you're deleting code, you've got to be very careful. So you can see this div opens up here and closes here, right? Now if you accidentally do something like this, then you're going to have an error because you've got a closed div there and you've got a closed div there. So that might cause you a little bit of issues later on. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to go fully to code view at the moment. What we need to do is just make sure we're deleting the right thing. So I'm just going to delete that one there. And we're also Then I'm going to delete this one here. And we're also then going to delete that one there. Okay, so what this does now is it's deleted the majority of this stuff for us. Okay, now the carousel indicators there I'm actually going to get rid of because I don't need them anymore. So I'm just going to delete that and we're away to go. Now, one thing to note is obviously this is very good. We've got our little item here, which is fine. But what we need to do now is add in some buttons. Now you can see I've already got buttons here, home and about. So I'm going to put those in now in a moment. But what we're going to do is something a little bit different. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. And you can see now it's small as over here. Now if I go to insert and let's go into image. In fact, let's go HTML and then let's go image. Now I want to nest it inside, so I'm going to click on nest. And what we want to do is look at the assets and we're going to look for the home button, which is there. Lovely, so let's put that in. Now if you need to make your buttons a little bit smaller, you can see you've got constraints on the bottom here. So in the properties, you could actually make them a little bit smaller. I don't need to at the moment, but that's fine. Let's change this and put the link in. So this is index.html. Now what I'm going to do the same thing down here, but I'm going to do the about. Now what I'm going to do is cheat a little bit. So I'm going to click on this P here for the paragraph, get rid of it, because I actually don't need it. And what we're going to do is duplicate this. So you can see now it's added 2 there for me. Okay, so what it allows me to do now is change this home button over here for something different. So if I click on this and then click on the about as an example, you can see now that says about. And likewise, let's say for argument's sake I did want to add another one in. Well, that's fine. If I click on it again and let's copy and paste, you can see now I've got 3 buttons on here. Now if you notice what I'm copying and pasting, I'm copying and pasting the H5 bit here now, so the heading 5 container. So if I just delete this now from this, I'll change it ever so slightly to instructions as an example. Now this is all very well and good, and if we try just previewing this for 1 second, don't forget once you've done this you'll need to change the links. So this is going to be instructions.html. And then this one will be about.html. So if I click on it again, okay, don't forget to press enter after you've done that. Right, so if we preview this again, so let's preview it in Safari. You can see, look, the buttons are there, and that looks pretty nice. And as I move everything around, you can see the buttons are moving almost as they should. Now there is a slight issue with this, that the buttons do go up and off. Right, so you will need to look at that. Potentially you're only going to be able to use sort of 2 buttons with this. If you have planned to use a third, you might need to change your designs. There is another thing that we can potentially do if you desperately do need 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete this one for a moment. And what we are going to look at doing is this whole div container. You can see I've got nothing really in here. If I add another div in, so I just copied the whole thing, right? What we can do is we can add in another div, so we could potentially then have another container in. Now if you did add in another div like this and put it after, notice what it's just done there is put it directly after that. So you need to make sure if we're on the correct one. I think it's this one, you know. No, it might be that one there. We change the bootstrap container after. Yeah, see, you've got to be very careful. So this is very finicky now at the moment. So just put a new container in, but just put it directly in after. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of fiddling on your behalf to try and get it to work neatly and tidily. Now, if you did want to get it over the other side, if we highlight that and bring it out, and likewise I'm going to do the same over here, what you'll find is this. Obviously, when you stretch it out, the buttons then will go in the middle. If we resize the column and then click on this side and move it over, what you will find is you'll have a little bit more control then over positioning. Now, you're not going to have absolute control over it, but you will get a little bit more control, and you will be able to then put them onto the left or the right hand side. So let's preview this again. So when the page gets a little bit smaller, look, it automatically shrinks, and you can still see it there. Okay. The other thing you can do, if you do desperately want to have 3 different images, in 3 different buttons, you can make them a lot smaller, so you can reduce the height a little bit more and then obviously shrink them down. If you make them responsive, there is something to bear in mind. If we do make these responsive, just to show you, let me save this. If you did make them responsive, what will happen is they might shrink down a bit too much. That one's okay, to be honest. But it depends how big your buttons are. You might find they'll shrink down. Now, once you've done this and you're happy with the layout of your design, you can also get rid of this completely. What I would do then is, you've got your containers here. You can start building up the website then. The buttons will be on top of the banner, which will look good. The other thing you can do, obviously, you can go back and modify your banner a little bit and change the design of it so that you can make then space for your buttons. Now, the last thing to think about, if you are going to do this, then what you are going to need to do is remake all of the pages that you've done, because you'll have to change the template page first, then save out the other pages. And the reason I say that is obviously your other pages then will have a slightly different design on them.